We lift the lid on the special relationship helping Prince William get through a stressful time. We look at more claims that Prince Harry wants to get back into the fold. We analyse the Prince Andrew Netflix drama scoop, and we ask, who are the royal family's secret weapons? We've got you covered for the best royal analysis. Hello and welcome to Palace Confidential. I'm Jo Elvin, and joining me to discuss the latest on the British royal family is Natasha Livingstone, the royal correspondent at the Mail on Sunday, and the Daily Mail's diary editor, Richard Eden. Welcome to you both. Now, and if you like royal content like this, here is your regular reminder from me to subscribe to our channel, Daily Mail Royals, to never miss another episode. Natasha, coming to you first. The King was back on public duty this week. What was he up to?
Yeah, he was at Buckingham Palace and he welcomed the Bank of England Governor, Andrew Bailey, to see the new notes with his face on, which I imagine must be quite a strange experience, even for the King.
Well, I think it's strange for all of us, let alone when it's you.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, even though the coins have obviously been around for the long time, he's only the second monarch to have his face on a note, because the history of that, I think it goes back to 1960, so it's quite a new thing even within royal history. And he was working on actually quite an interesting day anniversary wise, because it was the anniversary of the death of Prince Philip and also of his wedding anniversary to Camilla. So yeah, busy day for him.
Very busy. And you know, speaking of that, obviously nobody wants to rush somebody who's dealing with cancer before they're ready, but do you think we can expect to see more of Charles over the next few weeks?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely been reported that previously engagements that he's been at, it's been an issue with kind of having lots of people there because he's recovering. But as we go into the summer months, these engagements might be outside, and so that would be okay for him to be around more people. And it's been reported that, with the potential visit to Australia ramping up, the aides are kind of really looking into that, and that the King himself is keen for that to happen. So I think everything is dependent on his health, on the guidance from the doctors. But yeah, definitely the report suggests that we are hoping to see him more.
Gosh, now Richard Eden, Buckingham Palace is also being opened up more to the public.
Yeah, this is really exciting. I mean, Buckingham Palace is open to the public every summer in July and August, but this year the East Wing will be opened. Now, this is the wing that's the facade, the front of the palace.
Okay, so when you're driving and you see the front of it.
Yeah. And when it will include the balcony. So when we see the royal family come out at Trooping the Colour and other occasions onto the balcony, tourists and visitors will be able to go into that room and see it. I mean, this is, I was reading up a bit about the history of the East Wing this week, and it was built by Queen Victoria, that part, paid for with money from the sale of her holiday home, which was Brighton Pavilion, that amazing building.
That used to be hers.
On the south coast. Yeah, it was built by George IV, and basically the railways had started going to Brighton 9 years earlier, and she didn't really like all the great unwashed sort of peeping in while she was with her family. So she moved to the Isle of Wight for her holiday home to Osborne House and sold Brighton Pavilion for £53,000.
He's full of facts, isn't he?
I've
done my research.
Yeah, very good.
£53,000, you wouldn't get much for that these days.
No, what do you think that's worth? What would that mean in money today? Like millions, I guess.
Put it this way, it was enough to pay for the construction of the East Wing.
Gosh.
So 53 million maybe, not sure.
Have you got your ticket already?
I certainly want to go, it's going to be fantastic.
How much do you think it will be?
I think it's £75.
Wow.
Including all the staterooms and everything.
But you can't actually go on the balcony, which I thought was a bit disappointing. I'd quite like to have gone and got a selfie, on the balcony, as they do for Trooping of the Colour, but you can't actually step out, I don't think.
Will they stop you if you make a leap for the balcony?
Well, yes. I think they
Diving forward.
I think anyone outside who sees sudden sort of people appearing on the balcony might be rather alarmed.
It wouldn't be the most seemly view, would it? Sort of like seeing hundreds of tourists on there with their selfie sticks getting the view of the balcony. I can well see why they don't want that.
They could charge a lot extra, couldn't they? They could say £75
VIP
plus,
tour, yeah, you can see that, yeah.
Yeah, 150 quid and you can take home a crown as well.
I should say as well, the East Wing has already been redecorated, redeveloped, because they're gradually working their way.
Oh, thank goodness, because it was just looking like a tip, wasn't it?
So now it's safe for tourists, safe for everyone, and will be looking pristine and beautiful.
Lovely. I'm relieved to hear it. Now, speaking of Buckingham Palace, Natasha, distinctly French look to the place this week. What was that all about?
So the French guards were at the changing of the guard on Monday, I think it was, and the Ministry of Defence were very keen to stress that they weren't actually guarding the palace.
They were just attacking Britain.
Yes, everyone calm down. They was just taking part in the ceremony, and it was to mark 120 years, I think, of the Entente Cordiale with France, which basically it was dating back, I think, to after the Napoleonic Wars, and it was an agreement that meant it paved the way for good relationship with France, you know, leading for the First World War and so on. So yeah, a big kind of political moment for Britain and France.
But Natasha, I have a question for you. Did we make the French troops arrive via Waterloo Station?
Well, I hope so.
No, they're not anymore. It's St Pancras now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they probably got the Eurostar, didn't
Yes.
they? So yeah.
Exactly. Now, for the Francophiles, we will have a special royal-related treat for you later in the show, so watch out for that. Now, Richard Eden, the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh, were again centre stage at the event, and the King, he might have not predicted a few years ago how much he'd be relying on them, but he really needs them, doesn't he?
It's really interesting that. I mean, the King obviously is undergoing cancer treatment and is just carrying out some duties but not others. And this was one which he handed over to his younger brother, Prince Edward and Sophie, and who now, luckily I would say, have those titles of Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh, which I think makes it so much more easy really for them to carry out major duties like this, representing the King, because they've got that illustrious title that Prince Philip used to have.
Yes.
You know, it was given on his birthday, on Prince Edward's birthday. And imagine if they didn't have it. If it was just Prince Edward and Sophie, that would be a bit awkward, I would say.
Well, and, you know, there was a time, am I right, where the King kind of had to be talked into it, or he was deliberating on whether or not that was going to happen.
Certainly royal correspondents had been kind of briefed for years that Prince Edward wasn't going to get that title. You know, it was felt, lots of reasons, it was felt that the title would then be moving too far away from the crown and that sort of thing. But it was something that was promised to him by Prince Philip on his wedding to Sophie. So, you know, I was one of those who was delighted when he got it. And I think this really shows the wisdom of that decision.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, meanwhile, your favourite duo, the King's nieces, Beatrice and Eugenie, were on the cover of a magazine this week, and they were described as the royal family's secret weapons. Did you write that headline?
I have to say, it's a bit of a journalistic cliche. I think secret weapons that we may have to stop.
There's no such thing.
We may have to stop using, because pretty much everyone has been described as a royal family secret weapon.
Well, I'm going to look out for that in your column from now on.
Okay, I'll try and avoid it.
Yeah.
In this case, it was Hello magazine, and I should say they do usually have the Princess of Wales on their cover, like every week.
Yes.
But I think now with her out of action, they're trying to focus on some others, and here's Beatrice and Eugenie, and they were making the very sound points that I agree with, that, you know, they're great ambassadors for the royal family, and they could be doing more. They included extensive quotes from their mother, Sarah Duchess of York. Obviously,
extensive quotes.
Yes, they were.
Your tone.
They were quite
laugh.
extensive,
Yeah.
and obviously, no surprise, she's a big supporter of her daughters. But she was making the point, which I agree with, is they've learned so much from their grandmother. They really have, from the Queen. You know, that they're always diplomatic, sensible. You know, they have never put a foot wrong. And the thing I always found sort of marvellous about the sisters was that, you know, despite all their, you know, university years, and for everyone else, there's always some story about bad behaviour or being drunk or something like this. There was never anything like with them, and I think they surrounded themselves with loyal friends and behaved sensibly. And yeah, it would be great if they did have a bigger role in the future.
It's a really good point, actually. Now, Natasha, do you think there are ways that the King could use the sisters, or do you think he just wants them to keep their dad busy?
Yeah, I mean, both sisters are busy already. They're both mothers, they both have charities and organisations that they spend a lot of time working on. So if they were to become more involved in royal life, then we come back to that issue of the half-in, half-out royals, which obviously, as all the viewers will know, is a very controversial issue, particularly with Prince Harry. So I just can't really see how that would happen without it creating further problems down the line.
I just think there's a big difference with them, because, you know, they're not trying to make a fortune or anything. Like, yes, they have jobs, you know, it's an art gallery or whatever, but it's not like Harry and Meghan, where, you know, they had plans for seriously making a fortune, so that was going to be more awkward. So carrying out a few more engagements while working for an art gallery, I can't really see that as a
But then what would they
problem.
do, for example, about their security? Because at the moment I don't think they have state-funded security. If they were going out more as a working royal, would that change? Would the public want to pay for that? It just raises a lot of questions that I think at the moment the palace, I'm just not sure they want to deal with it.
To another potential secret weapon. You've written in your newsletter about someone that Prince William is increasingly relying on, and have you called them a secret weapon?
No, I certainly have avoided that term in my copy. I also wrote a longer piece for Mail Plus, which viewers can find online, and essentially it was a tribute to Carol Middleton, and her husband Mike, that have been working so hard behind the scenes during Catherine's illness to support the family, not just looking after the children, but also they've been in Norfolk with them during the school holidays. And it's just made, I think, William's life so much easier to have that strong support network of Catherine's family there. And they've always, they're only just doing a bit more than they used to. There was an item I included in my social diary today that last weekend William was seen at the pub in Norfolk with his mother-in-law, which I thought was quite interesting. It's a good example to all us husbands. Maybe we have to spend more time with our mothers-in-law.
Yeah, a bit difficult for my husband with his mother-in-law being in Australia.
Yeah, exactly. But it just shows that how much of a mother figure Carol Middleton has become. And I do suggest at the end of my article that why not give them honours? It was something that was suggested to me by a friend of theirs years ago, but, it should be the Earl and Countess of Bucklebury or something like that. It may just be...
How do we think the public would handle that?
I don't know. I mean, Carol Middleton got a really rough deal in The Crown,
She did.
I think, recently. So I don't know if that may have unfairly swayed public opinion for or against her. But maybe that's a reason as to why she deserves it more than ever before.
Forget The Crown. This is real life, in real life. No, I think particularly, after all their efforts recently, it would be lovely if King Charles did give them some sort of honour. I should say there's no suggestion whatsoever that they want that.
Yeah.
They probably wouldn't like it actually, because it would just be a millstone around their necks. But
I'd accept it.
Yeah, I'd have it. Yeah. Can I be a countess? What do I have to do?
But anyway, in my view, they deserve it.
There you go. You heard it here first. Now, to some of your thoughts from last week's episode with Richard Kay and Sarah Vine. Now, Janet Barkworth did not hold back on the comments about the late Diana, Princess of Wales. She said, slight Disneyfication of Diana. Well, that's the understatement of the year. There was so much rubbish talked about the woman who, despite her apparent good works, was utterly unsuited to be the wife of an intelligent, educated and sensitive man, and also to be the Queen. And if you just tuned in, that was our viewer, not me, saying all of that. As Charles and Camilla celebrate their 19th wedding anniversary, Mary Sneed had this to say: although I couldn't see what Charles saw in Camilla all those years ago, I don't think you're alone there, but I have come to realise that they are truly in love, and she has been a great partner and support for her husband. She's proven herself to be down to earth and devoted to her husband and her country. While Bayou Blooms believes Prince Harry's recent moves have backfired. As an American, I think Harry has done more to tarnish his mother's legacy and actually help Queen Camilla. His temper tantrums give credibility to the reports of Diana's bad behaviour, and that makes one question the things she spread about Camilla. And as someone who knows how important your partner in life is, it's obvious Camilla is King Charles's rock while Diana was not. On to a moving message now from Mark Fellows, who says, I am a strong American man, and when I saw Catherine's cancer message, I wept for her. I am in admiration of her courage, beauty and grace. What a queen she will be, UK. You are lucky to have William and Catherine and their children. And finally, a question from Evelyn McGovern from Canada, who asks, why not give Prince Andrew the job of Windsor Park Ranger? Would certainly keep him busy and out of trouble. What do you think, Richard?
It's interesting. I think that was a suggestion actually made by my colleague Richard Kay on the programme before. Yeah, that he thought it'd be a very sensible way of keeping him busy, and it would be a sort of practical role. I don't know. The impression I get is King Charles is in no mood to give Andrew any sort of role. Frankly, he just wishes he would, sort of keep quiet and retire. Windsor
Park Ranger, would that be? Try not to be rude here. Would that be a proper job? Do you know what I mean? Would he actually have to do some work?
Well, I think it's probably a sort of job that it is what you make of it.
Right.
I mean, Prince Philip did it before.
Okay.
So it would give him something practical to concentrate on. I do rather have visions of Andrew sort of going around the park telling people off for things, but I'm not sure that's quite what the ranger job involves.
Well, it says ranger on his shirt, he can do what he wants.
But yeah, I mean, certainly it would be great if he had some sort of practical role that he could get his teeth stuck into.
Indeed. Well, let's move on now. We'll get onto the Scoop scandal in just a moment, but before that, Prince Harry is due back in the UK. Natasha, what, if anything, do we know that he'll be doing?
We don't know that much, but it's been reported that he will be coming in early May, and it's to celebrate or mark the 10th anniversary of the Invictus Games. And I think it's been reported that he's going to be at a ceremony at St Paul's Cathedral. And this is obviously going to be a bit uncomfortable for the royal family, because the government are currently looking at seeing if the next Invictus Games in 2027 could be in Birmingham. So quite how that would work and if the royal family would publicly support it, we don't know. And it's been noted that, this is going to be a bit uncomfortable.
Now, Richard Eden, a royal biographer, Christopher Anderson, has claimed this week that Prince Harry is eager to return to London and help take up some of the slack. I don't think it's unfair to say that eagerness might not be reciprocated.
I know, it's something we have heard repeatedly from different people, and it was kind of became clear. Do you remember at the time of King Charles's birthday, when there was the business about the phone calls and it was made public, and there seems to be a real desire from California for Harry and Meghan to try and sort of mend those fences a bit and keep up those royal links, which, as we know, are extremely useful to them as they're securing new business.
But there are more reports coming out, aren't they? Particularly, one is from a US-based author about Harry's desire to return to the fold. I mean, how credible is that?
I think it's extremely likely that Harry does want to carry out royal duties. We heard the suggestion that he might want to do some to help out while the King and while Catherine are step back. But there's been no sign that that's going to happen. It's definitely something he wants to come back, I think, in many respects. But do we want him?
Where does the Duchess of Sussex stand on that as well? Does she want to come back?
We certainly haven't heard any reports that Meghan's very keen to come back to Britain. So the whole thing is sort of in the limbo, but the suggestion's there that he wants to come back to Britain more, and I think we will be seeing more of him one way or another.
Natasha, do you think it's got anything to do with the developments in the court case over Harry's US visa?
Well, either way, whatever happens with this situation, it's a bit difficult for him. So yes, maybe he would be keen to come back to the UK and try and win people over, because what's happening with that is this week a US judge has received the files. He's basically deciding whether or not to make them public. And this is all about whether or not Prince Harry said on his US visa application form if he'd taken drugs or not, which in his book Spare, he obviously spoke about in great detail. It's a bit messy, really.
I think we certainly Americans deserve to know, because at the moment there's this suspicion that it's one rule for the rich and famous and another for others.
No, surely not.
We know how strict these questions are and how difficult it is, to obtain visas to enter America. So I think it's people deserve to know.
Do you think that there does seem to be this momentum building that he's probably feeling slightly less welcome in America these days?
Well, I think it's just as the US presidential election, is on the horizon. We know Meghan is not a fan of Donald Trump, and that feeling is very much mutual. Trump's enjoyed making suggestions that they won't have such an easy ride if he's president again. So I think Harry has every reason to feel nervous in the USA now, and so it would suit him if he's got that escape route back to his homeland.
It's just like, I'm nervous about the idea of that being Donald Trump's first point of business.
I'm sure.
just to sort of like give Harry and Meghan a hard time.
I'm sure he's got much more important things to concentrate on.
I hope so. Anyway, if watching Prince Andrew's Newsnight interview wasn't excruciating enough for you the first time around, you can relive the horror in the Netflix drama Scoop, which finally came out at the weekend. Now, Natasha, the Palace won't comment on this, will they? But you can be sure that some inside must have watched it, don't you think?
They must have done, particularly because the Palace comms team very much comes under scrutiny and is portrayed in the drama. So you would imagine that they would be at least a little bit nosy and want to watch.
And how do you think Prince Andrew comes across in the drama? Because you've seen it, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, he is portrayed as quite thick, really, to be honest. He really comes across as kind of being totally bowled over by Newsnight and, you know, being persuaded that this was some kind of excellent idea for him to redeem himself, and then very much fell on his own sword.
Now, Richard, have you watched it?
Yes, yeah, I thought it was very good. I'd recommend viewers to watch it. It's a very good drama. It's got brilliant actors, you know, Gillian Anderson. And God, if I was Prince Andrew, I think I'd feel quite grateful to be played by Rufus Sewell. You know,
well, Rufus Sewell has been very de-Rufus Sewelled for
yeah, he had to wear a fat suit.
He is, but he still brings quite a lot of charm to the role.
Do you think so?
Yeah, and sympathy, actually. So the feeling I was left with, and others I watched it with, is there's ambiguous feelings. You're left with a bit of sympathy for Prince Andrew. The sort of villain of the piece, if you like, was his private secretary, Amanda Thirsk, who's played by the excellent actress Keely Hawes. But it's her very much who was pushing for this interview. She worked closely with Andrew for years, obviously big admirer of his, and what she thought was that giving him that public platform would enable viewers to see him the way that she does, really, and that would win people over. And obviously it was a disastrous point of view. And in the film we see press officers, or in one case literally resigning because they thought it would be a terrible idea. And obviously they were proved right. But she was convinced of the merits of it, and she subsequently left afterwards. But it was her advice, according to this programme, which led to his decision.
Do we know if Amanda Thirsk has said anything about the show?
She certainly hasn't said anything publicly,
Yeah.
and I doubt she will. I think, you know, she's a businesswoman now, and she had an extremely difficult task. You know,
Yeah.
she was trying to rehabilitate Prince Andrew's public image, and I think that was probably beyond the realms of even the best spin doctor.
Gosh, well, speaking of royal dramas on TV, that is, Mail Plus has put together a list of the best 20 royal dramas from television. We'll put a link in the description below for that. Now, Natasha, sticking briefly with the Duke of York, you had a story about the unexpected disappearance, I should say, of some official papers relating to Prince Andrew.
Yeah, so this is actually linked to a royal historian, Andrew Lowney, who is researching a book about Prince Andrew at the moment, and he's been looking at what's called Prince Andrew's trade envoy years, where he was kind of employed by the government to go out and like boost business for the UK. So he did a lot of foreign travel, but he had to step back from the role in 2011 over a lot of controversies about whether he was privately benefiting from this role. And so historians like Andrew have been trying to find the documents about this period, but when asked the government about it, they've said that they may not have retained them, and the policy is that if they're historically important documents, they go to the National Archives. If they're not, they're destroyed, and they've basically said it's possible that they've been destroyed. So that's not great for transparency.
That's mysterious, isn't it?
The plot thickens. I mean, certainly if I was Prince Andrew, I'd be very nervous about Andrew Lowney's book. I mean, this is an author he wrote about Earl Mountbatten of Burma, who had a very, very good public image, and that book was not flattering. Difference, of course, is Lord Mountbatten was dead, so you can't libel the dead. But in this case, I suspect Andrew might have his libel lawyers ready.
Do we know when that book is due for publication?
I think it depends on whether he can get the files that he needs,
Right.
which at the moment is proving quite tricky.
So it could be a while.
So it could be a while, yeah.
Well, that's a suspenseful one. Now, don't panic if you were worried that we haven't had a Princess Anne section of the show. It's right now. And we could talk about her doing another investiture this week, but I can't say that word. But Richard Eden, the biggest story seems to be that a potential future daughter-in-law has disappeared from the scene.
Yeah, this is intriguing. This is Lindsay Wallace, who was the girlfriend of Peter Phillips, who's the eldest of Queen Elizabeth's grandchildren. They've been going out for a few years, and the seriousness of the relationship was illustrated when she suddenly appeared at all these important royal events. She first at the Queen Elizabeth's Platinum Jubilee
That's
celebrations.
Right.
You know, she's a beautiful woman who was by his side, and then she was at the coronation concert at Windsor and all these other events. So obviously people were thinking this must be serious. You know, it could be wedding bells in the future. He's separated from his first wife, who's Autumn Kelly, and now it's over. Apparently, it was story was broken this week. Not quite clear why, but he does a lot of travelling. Last time we talked about Peter Phillips, he was giving interviews on the other side of the world, so it may be a straightforward case of that. But either way, sad for him and his for Princess Anne, I'm sure, who seem to like her. I should add that one important thing Princess Anne has done this week is hand an honour at Windsor Castle to our esteemed colleague Jeff Powell, who got an MBE. So well done, Jeff. He certainly deserved that.
Where's your MBE?
That would have to maybe wait till I'm Jeff's age.
Oh.
What you need is Beatrice and Eugenie to start as working royals, and then they can give it to you, and then it'll be a full circle.
There you go.
That's slightly corrupt.
Well,
Richard's not above that. Well, with the royals celebrating the anniversary of the Entente Cordiale between Britain and France, we thought we'd celebrate that in our own way with some of our favourite pictures of the royals meeting celebrated French stars, politicians and sports people. Enjoy. Magnifique. I hope you enjoyed those. A reminder to subscribe to our channel for more great royal videos. Just time now to say thank you to Natasha and Richard and to you for watching. We'll see you next week on Palace Confidential. Bye for now.